Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Podcast Special Edition 2019-20 NHL Season Predictions Podcast. We're going to go division by division, reveal my playoff teams, my Stanley Cup winner, my awards winners, breakout players. You have make or break guys, flop players, and the bold prediction for every team. All right. Let's start with the team predictions. We'll start in the Metropolitan Division. In first place, I have finishing with 102 points, the Washington Capitals. In second place, finishing at 100 points, a team that I think is going to surprise a lot of people this year, the Philadelphia Flyers. Third place with 97 points, the Pittsburgh Penguins. Fourth place with 94 points, and the first wild card spot in the East, the Carolina Hurricanes. Fifth place in the Metropolitan Division with the second wild card spot with 92 points. Another team I think will surprise people this year, the New York Rangers. Sixth place with 90 points. A team that's just going to miss out. A team I think is going to improve from last year, the New Jersey Devils. Seventh, the New York Islanders. I have them with 85 points. I think they take a step back. And last place with 80 points, the Columbus Blue Jackets. This is certainly the deepest division in the league. The Capitals have won this division the past 4 seasons, and I think they'll take it again. Alex Ovechkin is still around to score his fair share of goals, and Evgeny Kuznetsov, Nicholas Backstrom, TJ Oshie, and Tom Wilson will help Ovechkin and the offense go. The defense is still solid, led by John Carlson, Dmitry Orlov, and Michael Kempny. Braden Holtby is still around in goal, in the contract year, by the way. The Philadelphia Flyers are a good bet to bounce back from last year's disappointment, and they have a new coach in Alain Vigneault. Claude Giroux, Sean Couturier, Jacob Voracek, and free agent pickup Kevin Hayes lead the way offensively. Their defense is young and getting better with Shane Gostisbehere, Ivan Provorov, and veteran Matt Niskanen leading the way. Carter Hart is one of the up-and-coming goalies in this league, and he could possibly win a Vezina Trophy someday, perhaps this year. The Pittsburgh Penguins are a team whose window is closing. Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin are still around. The offense also has the likes of Jake Kuznetsov, Brian Rust, and newcomer Alex Galchenyuk, who was traded to Pittsburgh for Phil Kessel. The defense is not as good as it once was, with Chris Letang's game in decline, and they also have the likes of Justin Schultz and Brian Dumoulin. Matt Murray is still very good in goal, but he was compromised last season thanks to a defense not being as strong. The Carolina Hurricanes are a team that may take a step back, but I still think this is a playoff team. Sebastian Aho is a star in this league, and he has some good forwards around him, such as Andrei Shestnikov, Nino Niederreiter, and Teuvo Teravainen. The defense is sneakily very good, led by Dougie Hamilton, Jacob Slavin, and Joel Edmondson. My one concern about the Canes is whether the duo of Peter Mrazek and James Reiner can get the job done in a big spot. The New York Rangers are certainly one of the teams that's improved the most this summer. Rookie Capo Kakko and free agent pickup Artemi Panarin joined Chris Kreider and Mika Zibanejad to form a lethal foursome offensively. The defense will be improved with the trade acquisitions of Jacob Trouba and Adam Fox to go with Brady Shea and Tony DeAngelo. Henrik Lundqvist's game has been in decline for a few years now, but with a better defense, he could turn back the clock a little bit. The New Jersey Devils should be better than they were a season ago. Taylor Hall is in a contract year, and he, Ricky Jack Hughes, and Nico Hischier will be a nice trio offensively. Their defense will be improved with the trade acquisition of PK Subban to go with Sami Vatanen and Damon Severson. Corey Schneider needs to have a good season in goal after a few down seasons if the Devils are truly a playoff team, in my opinion. The New York Islanders had a great season last year, but I expect it to step back. Anders Lee was brought back, and he, Matthew Barzal, Brock Nelson, Jordan Eberle, and Josh Bailey is a nice offensive core. The defense is not that great with the likes of Ryan Pulock, Nick Leddy, and Johnny Boychuk. They downgraded at goalie from Robin Leonard to Semyon Varlamov, and it's Varlamov and Thomas Greiss, and Greiss is mediocre at best. The Columbus Blue Jackets will take a step back with key free agent losses. Their offense has some talent with Pierre-Luc Dubois, Cam Atkinson, and Nick Foligno. Their defense has a nice duo in the top pairing with Seth Jones and Zach Werenski. Replacing Sergei Bobrovsky in net is Jonas Korpisalo, who has shown some flashes as a backup goalie in his career. I obviously think that the Blue Jackets will be the best last-place team in the league, and quite frankly, it might not be close. The Atlantic Division. In first place, I have finishing with 105 points, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Second place with 103 points, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Third place with 100 points, the Boston Bruins. Fourth place with 91 points, the Florida Panthers. Fifth place with 85 points, the Buffalo Sabres. Sixth place with 82 points, the Montreal Canadiens. Seventh place with 70 points, the Detroit Red Wings. And eighth place with 65 points, the Ottawa Senators. The Tampa Bay Lightning are a team that's trying to rebound from an embarrassing sweep at the hands of the Columbus Blue Jackets in the first round. But they won this division the last 2 seasons, and I think they'll take it again. Nikita Kucherov, Braden Point, and Steven Stamkos lead the way offensively. Their defense is loaded with Victor Hedman, Ryan McDonough, and Mikhail Sergachev. Andrei Vasilevsky is awesome in goal. The Toronto Maple Leafs are a team that's poised for a big year. John Tavares, Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, and William Nylander is perhaps the best foursome in terms of forward teammates in the league. Their defense is vastly improved with Tyson Barrie coming over in the trade. They go with Morgan Rielly and Jake Muzzin. Frederik Andersen is a goalie that's been erratic at times, but a better defense will help him. The Boston Bruins made the Stanley Cup final a season ago, and I think they have a chance to go back if things break right. Their offense is loaded, led by Brad Marchand, Patrice Bergeron, David Pastrnak, and Jake DeBrusk. Their defense is solid, led by Zdeno Chara, Charlie McAvoy, and Torrey Krug. Tuukka Rask is still around in goal, and he's someone who's quietly declining. The Florida Panthers are a team looking to make it to the postseason for the first time in 4 seasons. Their offense is solid, led by Alexander Barkov, Jonathan Huberdeau, and Vincent Trocheck. Their defense is not that great, but serviceable, led by Aaron Ekblad and Keith Yandel. The Buffalo Sabres are a team that's trying to end a 7-year playoff drought. Jack Eichel, Casey Middlestat, Jeff Skinner, and Sam Reinhart lead the way offensively. Their defense is better than it's been the past 2 seasons, with newcomer Colin Miller joining Rasmus Dahlin, Rasmus Ristolainen, Marco Scandella, and Brandon Montour. Their weakness is in goal, and their starter is supposed to be Carter Hutton. The Montreal Canadiens had a surprisingly decent season a year ago, but I think they take a step back. Max Domi, Brendan Gallagher, and Thomas Tatar lead the way offensively. Their defense is actually not bad, led by Shea Weber and Jeff Petrie. Carey Price is still in goal, and he's not what he was 5 years ago, but he can steal some games that the Habs shouldn't win. The Detroit Red Wings are in a rebuild and aren't even close to contending. Their top line is projected to be Dylan Larkin, Anthony Mantha, and Tyler Bertuzzi. Their defense isn't great with the likes of Mike Green and Danny DeKeyser. Jimmy Howard is still around in goal. The Ottawa Senators are a team with a new coach in DJ Smith, and it is in a rebuild still, too. They need to continue to develop talented guys such as Colin White and Brady Tkachuk. Their defense is still left to be desired, and the only guy who I really like is Thomas Chabot. Craig Anderson is not a bad goalie and could be trade bait if the Sens decide to have a sell-off again. Central Division. First place with 107 points, the Colorado Avalanche. Second place I have with 105 points, the St. Louis Blues. Third place with 100 points, the Nashville Predators. Fourth place with 97 points in the first wild card, the Dallas Stars. Fifth place with 95 points in the second wild card, the Winnipeg Jets. Sixth place with 85 points, the Chicago Blackhawks. And seventh place with 74 points, the Minnesota Wild. This division is absolutely loaded, and my pick to win it is the Colorado Avalanche. The Avs are loaded offensively, led by their top line of Nathan MacKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, and Gabriel Landeskog. Their defense is very solid too, led by rookie Cale Makar, Samuel Girard, and Eric Johnson. Philip Gaubauer is their new starting goalie, with Semyon Varlamov moving on from the team. The St. Louis Blues are the reigning Stanley Cup champions, and they should be back in the mix again. Their offense is among the better ones in the league, with Vladimir Tarasenko, Ryan O'Reilly, and Jaden Schwartz leading the way. Their defense is among the best in the game, too, led by Alex Pietrangelo, Colton Parenko, Joel Edmondson, and offseason add Vince Dunn. Jordan Binghamton was amazing in the team's Stanley Cup run last season, and my question is whether he can repeat his success from a year ago. The Nashville Predators are a team that's still solid in the West, Matt Duchene was added to this offense that already has Philip Forsberg, Ryan Johansson, and Victor Edvardsen. Their defense is still good. Sans Trainingway, PK Subban, and guys like Roman Josi, Ryan Ellis, and rookie Dante Fabro will lead the way on that unit. Pekka Rinne is still in net. He's someone who's getting up there in age at 36. The Dallas Stars should be a team that should return to the postseason. Their offense will be better by adding veteran Joe Pavelski to go with Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, and Alexander Radulov. Their defense is really good with their top pairing of John Klingberg and Miro Heiskanen. Ben Bishop is one of the more underrated goalies in the league. The Winnipeg Jets are a team that may take a step back this season. Their offense is still really good, led by Patrick Laine, Kyle Connor, Blake Wheeler, and Mark Sheffley. Their defense is not good anymore, really. They lost Jacob Trouba to the Rangers in that trade, and they had a couple guys leaving free agency, like Tyler Myers. I mean, that team is looking like a hot mess defensively. Dustin Byfuglien isn't even with the team to start the season, and Josh Morrissey is their best option right now. Morrissey's solid, but to me, he's more like a second-pairing D guy rather than a top-pairing D guy. Connor Hellebuck is someone that wasn't as good as he was 2 years ago, but I still think that he has some upside. The Chicago Blackhawks are a team that really should be in a rebuilding phase, but still have a lot of championship experienced veterans on their roster. Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane, and Alex DeBrincat all had great seasons last year, but I'm not so sold that Toews will be as good this season, but the other two I think will be okay. Their defense is obviously aging with Duncan Keith and Brent Seabrook still there, and the team added Ali Mata this offseason via trade. And Eric Gustafsson is somebody that had a career year for the Hawks last year, who they're going to be relying heavily on this year. Corey Crawford is still in goal, although he's had health issues over the last few years, and the pickup of Robin Leonard was smart. The Minnesota Wild are a team in a transition phase. Their offense isn't very good with guys like Eric Staal and Zach Parise getting up there in age, although they did sign Mats Zuccarello this summer, and Jason Zucker is still around after being in trade rumors all summer. Their defense is pretty solid, though, led by Matt Dumba, Ryan Sutter, and Jared Spurgeon. Devin Dubnyk is solid in net as well. Pacific Division. In first place, I have with 110 points, the Vegas Golden Knights. Second place with 97 points, the San Jose Sharks. Third place with 94 points, the Calgary Flames. Fourth place with 88 points, the Vancouver Canucks. Fifth place with 85 points, the Edmonton Oilers. Sixth place with 82 points, the Arizona Coyotes. Seventh place with 73 points, the Anaheim Ducks. And in last place with 67 points, the Los Angeles Kings. This division is arguably the weakest in the league, although the Atlantic could be the weakest if a few teams are worse than I project. The Vegas Golden Knights are my pick to win this division for the second time in their brief history. Their offense is awesome, led by William Karlsson, Jonathan Marchessault, Max Pacioretty, and Mark Stone. Despite losing Colin Miller, their defense is still very good, led by Shea Theodore and Nate Schmidt. Marc-Andre Fleury is still around in goal, and he's somebody that's aging, but the good defense that he has in front of him, it really has helped them a lot. The San Jose Sharks are a team that really is relying on some younger players to make jumps this season, with some of their veterans aging. Their offense is solid, led by Thomas Hertl, Timo Meier, Logan Couture, Evander Kane, and Kevin LeBlanc. Their defense is still solid, led by Erik Karlsson, Brent Burns, and Mark-Edward Vlasic. Martin Jones is still in goal, and he must be better than his sub-900 save percentage from a season ago. The Calgary Flames are a team that wants to build on a successful season from a year ago. Their offense is great, led by Johnny Gaudreau, Elias Lindholm, Sean Monahan, and Matthew Tkachuk. Their defense is solid, led by Mark Giordano, TJ Brody, and Noah Hannafin. David Rittich showed some promise last season in net, and Cam Talbot is backing him up. The Vancouver Canucks are a team that I expect to improve this season. Their offense has a nice core led by Elias Pettersson, Brock Besser, and Bo Horvat. Their defense will be better with rookie Quinn Hughes, free agent Tyler Myers, and Alexander Edler. Jacob Markstrom showed promise in net last season. The Edmonton Oilers are a team that looks to bounce back from yet another disappointing season. Connor McDavid is the best player in the world, and he has Leon Draisaitl, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and a new addition in James Neal around him on offense. Their defense still isn't good with guys like Darnell Nurse and Oscar Klefbom. In goal now is veteran Mike Smith. The Arizona Coyotes showed improvement last season and look to build on it. Their offense has potential, led by Clayton Keller, Derek Stepan, Christian Dvorak, and trade add Phil Kessel. The defense took a step forward a year ago, led by Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Alex Gologowski. The goaltending duo of Darcy Kemper and Antti Ranta has potential too, and I'm not sold on Kemper repeating last season's success. The Anaheim Ducks are a team that's in a transition and could look like a different team if they have a trade deadline sell-off. Corey Perry is gone, but Ryan Getzlaf, Rickard Rakell, Jacob Silverberg, and Adam Henrique are still around. The defense is pretty solid, led by Hampus Lindholm, Cam Fowler, and Josh Manson. Their goalie, John Gibson, is one of the more underrated goalies in the league, and they have Ryan Miller backing him up, and Miller has turned into a solid backup in the second part of his career. The Los Angeles Kings are a team that's on the verge of enduring a major rebuild. Anze Kopitar, Dustin Brown, Tyler Toffoli, and Ilya Kovalchuk lead the way offensively. On defense, you have Drew Doughty and Alec Martinez as your top pairing. Jonathan Quick is still in net, and he can be trade bait as well as a lot of other players on this team. The 2020 Stanley Cup Playoffs. Quarterfinals. Atlantic Division 1 seeded Tampa Bay Lightning versus wildcard number 2 New York Rangers. The up-and-coming Rangers' promising season comes to an end against the Lightning team, full of ex-Rangers on it, that will come out not wanting a repeat of last season to happen. Lightning in 40 games is my prediction, although I could see it being like a competitive 4. Maybe the Rangers come close to stealing a couple at home. Atlantic Division number 2, Toronto Maple Leafs versus Atlantic Division number 3, Boston Bruins. Death, Texas, Leaf Bruins in the first round. Rinse, rise, repeat. This is among the best rivalries in the sport, and I think the improved Leafs will finally break through here against their arch rival. Prediction, Maple Leafs in 6 games. Metro Division 1 seed Washington Capitals versus wildcard number 1 Carolina Hurricanes. Here we have a rematch of last season's first round matchup. This time, I believe the Caps get their revenge, led by Alex Ovechkin and Braden Holtby. The prediction, Capitals in 6 games. Metro Division number 2, Philadelphia Flyers versus Metro Division number 3, Pittsburgh Penguins. One of the best rivalries in the sport takes center stage here. The up-and-coming Flyers will get the better end of the aging Pens this time around. The prediction, Flyers in 6 games. Western Conference, Central Division 1 seed Colorado Avalanche versus wildcard number 1 Dallas Stars. This should be an entertaining playoff series between good teams from the West. The trio of Nathan MacKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, and Gabriel Landeskog will prevail over Ben Bishop and the Stars here. So the pick, Avalanche in 6. Central Division number 2, St. Louis Blues versus Central Division number 3, Nashville Predators. This is the best of my projected first-round series. Both of these teams are great all around, and I'm going to take the reigning champions to prevail here, as Pekka Rinne will have more postseason struggles. The prediction, Blues in 7 games. Pacific Division 1 seed Vegas Golden Knights versus wildcard number 2 Winnipeg Jets. This would have been a much better series if this was last year, but I don't think the Jets can keep up with the Knights this time around in what would be a Western Final rematch of 2 years ago. So the prediction, Knights in 5 games. Pacific Division number 2 San Jose Sharks versus Calgary Flames Pacific Division number 3. This should be a fun first round with a ton of goals scored. I'm going to go with a team that's had the better postseason pedigree, and that is the Sharks. So the prediction, Sharks in 6 games. The semifinal, Atlantic Division 1 seed Tampa Bay Lightning versus Atlantic Division 2 seed Toronto Maple Leafs. These two teams are going to score a ton of goals in this series, but I'm going to go with the upset here with the Leafs as the Bolts go home earlier than expected yet again. Prediction, Maple Leafs in 7 games. Metro Division 1 seed Washington Capitals versus Metro Division 2 seed Philadelphia Flyers. This should be a fantastic series between these division rivals. I'm going to go with Ovechkin and company to advance here in what should be a great series. Prediction, Capitals in 7 games. Central Division 1 seed Colorado Avalanche versus Central Division 2 seed St. Louis Blues. This series is going to be excellent between these division rivals. The Blues' bid for a repeat comes to an end against a improved Avalanche team. Prediction, Avalanche in 7 games. Pacific Division champion Vegas Golden Knights versus Pacific Division 2 seed San Jose Sharks. This has emerged as a great rivalry over the last 2 years in the league, and here they'd meet in the playoffs for a 3rd straight season. This time around, give me the better team, and that is the Knights. The prediction, Knights in 6 games. Eastern Conference Final. Metro Division winner Washington Capitals versus Atlantic Division 2 seed Toronto Maple Leafs. This should be a very interesting conference final. I really like how the Leafs put their team together this year, and I think they make the final for the first time in over 50 years. Prediction, Maple Leafs in 6 games. Pacific Division 1 seed Vegas Golden Knights versus Central Division 1 seed Colorado Avalanche. This should be an excellent series between 2 great Western Conference teams. Tough call, but give me the McKinnon, Ronton, and Landeskog trio to lead the Avs to their first final since 2001. Prediction, Avalanche in 6 games. Stanley Cup Final. Central Division 1 seed Colorado Avalanche versus the Atlantic Division 2 seed Toronto Maple Leafs. This should be an interesting final between the 2 teams that haven't won in over a decade. I should say between 2 teams that haven't won in over a decade. I said the 2 teams. I meant to say 2 teams because there are definitely more than 2 teams that haven't won in over a decade. So these 2 teams that haven't won in over a decade. The ironic thing here is that these 2 teams made a big trade this summer, headlined by Nazem Kadri going to Colorado and Tyson Barrie going to Toronto. That said, I'm going with the Avalanche to win their 3rd cup in franchise history in what should be a fantastic series. So, my prediction, 2019-20 Stanley Cup champion, Colorado Avalanche. I'm going to say they win it in 6 games. The Conn Smythe Trophy, I'm going to say, goes to Nathan MacKinnon. All right, awards. I'm going to start with the Hart Trophy, and my prediction for the Hart Trophy is the guy who I just mentioned, Nathan MacKinnon, Colorado Avalanche. I think that he's going to benefit from having those 2 wingers in Ronson and Landeskog to be playing with all season. Those 2 guys are great, but McKinnon's the one that makes that engine work and that line work, and I think he's going to lead the Avalanche to big things this season. And the rest of my ballot is as follows. 2, Nikita Kucherov. 3, Alex Ovechkin. 4, Connor McDavid. 5, Sebastian Aho. 6, Sidney Crosby. 7, Claude Giroux. 8, John Tavares. 9, Austin Matthews. 10, Vlad Tarasenko. Some honorable mentions here. I'm going to say William Karlsson and Mark Stone of Vegas. Timo Meier of San Jose. Braden Holtby of Washington. Andrei Vasilevsky of Tampa. Steven Stamkos of Tampa. Artemi Panarin. Kaapo Kakko of the Rangers. Evgeny Kuznetsov of the Capitals. Jacob Voracek of the Flyers. There's a lot of guys that I could see being like dark horse contenders for that, and maybe somebody can emerge as this year's Nikita Kucherov and win it outright. Maybe it's like a Mikko Rantanen type or a Gabriel Landeskog. Maybe it's somebody that we're not thinking of. Maybe it's Braden Point of the Lightning, another Lightning player, ironically enough. So that's my top 10 for the Hart Trophy. Again, McKinnon winning it. Runner-up Kucherov. Ovechkin, McDavid, Aho, Crosby, Giroux, Tavares, Matthews, Tarasenko is my top 10 for that award. Winning the Vezina Trophy. This may come to a surprise to a lot of people. A team that I'm very high on this season with a new coach, and a team that I think had a very dismal year last year and I think are bound to have a big year, and that's the Flyers, and that's Carter Hart, who really came on the scenes last year. And if they started the season with him, then maybe this team makes the playoffs. He's that good. He's going to be one of the best goalies in the league for this young generation. I think he's the breakout goalie of the league, and I think he wins this award. That's a bit of a surprise here. And he has a good defense in front of him, and his team's going to score a shit ton of goals, so I believe in Carter Hart. And my runner-up is Andrei Vasilevsky of the Lightning, who obviously has been in play for this award a lot of times in his career. I don't think he's actually won it, though. And the rest of my ballot, number 3, I have former Lightning goalie Ben Bishop, now obviously of the Stars. Devin Dubnyk of the Wild. I think that He's going to have a good year despite being on a bad Wild team. Maybe he's trade bait. Who knows? 5, Frederik Andersen of the Maple Leafs. That improved defense in front of him. 6, Braden Holtby of the Capitals. Contract year. I probably should have actually picked him to win it. I didn't even think about that because I like contract year guys a lot. 7, I have Connor Hellebuck of the Jets. I think he has a bounce-back year. 8, John Gibson of the Ducks. I think that he's going to keep the Ducks in a lot of games, and I feel the same way about Dubnyk with the Wild, obviously. 9, Matt Murray of Pittsburgh, and 10, David Rittich of Calgary. Some honorable mentions to throw out just because Sergei Bobrovsky, I'm not sold that he's going to be great right away. Jonathan Quick could be somebody that could potentially be flipped to a new team and maybe he helps his new team. A lot of these original good goalies are aging, like Marc-Andre Fleury, Henrik Lundqvist, Pekka Rinne, Carey Price. Those 4 guys are all aging. Corey Crawford might actually be a candidate if he stays healthy, but I'm not sold on his health. So there's a lot of interesting goalies out there that could perhaps win this award. The Norris Trophy. Number 1, Victor Hedman, Tampa Bay Lightning. I think that he's the best defenseman in the league, on one of the best teams in the league. So this is kind of just a chalk pick that I just have so much respect for Hedman. He's still in his prime, and I think he'll lead that defense and help lead the Lightning to another division title. My runner-up is somebody that's on a bad team, or I should say a last-place team, not necessarily a bad team, and that's Seth Jones of the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think that this guy's an absolute star, and I think that there's a chance the Predators might be scratching their heads thinking why they trade this guy. 3, Roman Josi of the Predators. Doug Saravo predicted on my podcast the other day that he'd win it. I'm a big fan of Josi, and I think that was a good call by Doug, personally. 4, PK Subban of the New Jersey Devils. 5, Jacob Trouba of the New York Rangers. 6, Erik Karlsson of the San Jose Sharks. 7, Brent Burns of the San Jose Sharks. 8, Miro Heiskanen of the Dallas Stars. 9, John Klingberg of the Dallas Stars. 10, Drew Doughty of the Los Angeles Kings. Some honorable mentions, Kel McCarr of the Avalanche. I thought about putting him on this list, but he's a rookie, and I really don't put rookies on big award lists other than Rookie of the Year. That's just my rule. That's a preseason rule I always have, so that's why Kel McCarr didn't make this list. Another candidate is Shea Weber of the Canadiens. Maybe somebody like Hampus Lindholm could be in the conversation, or Cam Fowler out in Anaheim. I don't think Duncan Keith's the same player he used to be. I think that Alex Pietrangelo could potentially be in play, and Torrey Krug. So we have some interesting candidates out there for the Norris Trophy. The Calder Trophy, Rookie of the Year, my pick for this. Kaapo Kakko of the New York Rangers. I think this kid's going to be very special. I heard somebody, I think it was Emily Kaplan of ESPN, predicted Kakko would lead the NHL in goals and would be the first rookie to lead the league in goals since Sidney Crosby did it back in 2005, or the 05-06 season. I just don't think that Kakko will lead the league in goals, but I do think he's going to have a fantastic rookie season and take home this award. But it won't be easy because my number 2 guy for this is Jack Hughes of the New Jersey Devils. He's poised to have a big year for New Jersey too, and these 2 kids are going to be stars in the league for years to come. But I decided to go with Kakko over Hughes simply because I think the Rangers are a playoff team and not the Devils this year. And Kakko has more around him than Hughes. 3, Cale Makar of the Avalanche. This is a popular pick to win the Calder simply because the Avs are a cup contender and Makar is an impact defenseman. 4, I have Quinn Hughes of the Canucks. This is somebody that I think could be another possible blue chipper on the Canucks defense. I really like what I've read and seen from this guy in highlights and in preseason action as well. 5, Cody Glass of the Vegas Golden Knights. I think this guy is going to be very, very good for that team. 6, Vitaly Kravtsov of the New York Rangers. This guy was a top 10 pick into the 2018 draft. He played in Russia last year. Now he's on the Rangers. I think that playing on the same line as Chris Kreider might do him wonders. and you'll have probably Ryan Strome centering him, well, for now. And Strome, somebody that kind of had a revival with the Rangers last year. 7, Adam Fox of the New York Rangers. This is a kid that Carolina might have foolishly gave up on. He has a lot of talent. I just don't think he wanted to be in Carolina, so they dealt him to the Rangers, and I think that the Rangers gave up a decent price to get him. So we'll see how he pans out, and I think he'll be very good. I'm higher on the Rangers than a lot of people are this year, and I think that Fox is a possible guy to emerge as a blue chipper for them. 8, Dante Fabro of the Nashville Predators. This is another young defenseman I'm high on. Nashville's specialty is developing young defensemen, and Fabro's next in line. 9, Kirby Dach of the Chicago Blackhawks. I think he'll eventually be on this team. I think he's going to be this year's version of Jesperi Kotkaniemi from the Canadiens and really help the Blackhawks this year a lot as they find yet another blue chipper to build around in the future. And number 10, Nick Suzuki of the Montreal Canadiens. I think he's going to see a lot of playing time, and he's somebody that the Habs are pretty high on. The Jack Adams Award, I have a 5-man ballot. Number 1, I have Alain Vigneault of the Flyers. He got fired from the Rangers a few years ago. Time's run its course. He landed on his feet in Philadelphia, has a good team, mix of veterans and some young players. I think he'll do a great job there and lead them to a top 3 finish in the Metro Division. Number 2, Dan Quinn of the Rangers. I think their rebuild is officially over, and I think they are a team that's a candidate to pull off some trades at the deadline in the winter time, and I think that this is a playoff team in the East. 3, Rod Brind'Amour, Carolina Hurricanes. I think some people feel that the Hurricanes were a fluke last year, and I think they're going to prove to people that they're not. And I like the job that Brind'Amour has done. And I think they'll be in the playoffs for back-to-back years after their long playoff drought. 4, Gerard Gallant of the Vegas Golden Knights. I think that Vegas wins the President's Trophy this year, so it's obvious to put the coach of the President's Trophy winning team on the Jack Adams list. And 5, Jared Bednar of the Colorado Avalanche. I have the Avs winning the Cup. I have them winning the Central Division. I thought about picking him to win the President's Trophy too, but I want to be a little different on that pick, so I decided to go with Vegas. So Bednar, I'm going to give him his due, and they'll certainly be a contender out there in the West. The Selke Trophy 5-man ballot. Number 1, Patrice Bergeron, Boston Bruins. I always tend to pencil in Bergeron for this every year. He's just a great player, 2 ways, and will help the Bruins this year in any way he always does. 2, Jonathan Toews of the Chicago Blackhawks. He had a really good bounce-back offensive season last year. I still think he's going to be a good defensive forward, but I don't know if he'll repeat the offensive numbers as well. But I just know he's a good 2-way player. I think his offensive numbers might dip, but the defense side of his game is still there. 3, Anze Kopitar, Los Angeles Kings. This is somebody who is still in his prime, possible trade candidate if things go really bad for LA this year, which I think they could. 4, Ryan O'Reilly, St. Louis Blues. He won it last year, so why not put him on the preseason ballot this year? Also won the Conn Smythe Trophy a year ago as well. 5, Mark Stone, Vegas Golden Knights, the runner-up to O'Reilly from last year, and he's one of the better defensive forwards in the league. The Rocket Richard Award, most goals, Alex Ovechkin. This is an auto bet for me every year. This guy is not slowed down at all. And the Art Ross Trophy with the most amount of points, I'm going to say it's Connor McDavid of the Edmonton Oilers. I don't think the Oilers are a playoff team, but McDavid's the best player in the world, so why not give the Art Ross to McDavid? All right. Breakout players for each team. I am going to go alphabetical order. The Anaheim Ducks, and by the way, non-rookie breakout players. So, if you're disappointed I didn't pick a rookie, then just wait for best rookies. So, breakout players, Anaheim Ducks, Maxime Komotis. I think that this kid is pretty promising. I think he has a chance to play with Jacob Silfverberg and Adam Henrique. Right now, he's slated to be on the number 2 line, but Silfverberg's on the 1 line. So I'm going to say it's Komotis, 2017 second-round pick, only had 7 points a year ago, and he's supposed to be on the 2nd line. So I think it's going to be Komotis, and a lot of it's going to be Henrique and some of his line mates, maybe a little bit of Silfverberg, Troy Terry. There's some talent there, but I just am banking on Komotis to be their breakout player. The Arizona Coyotes, Christian Dvorak, slated to be on their first line this year with Derek Stepan and Clayton Keller. He's going to be a contributor for that. The Boston Bruins, Danton Heinen, someone who is supposed to be on their 3rd line to start the year with Sean Caroli. And this was a 4th-round pick in 2014, so nice story there. And Carson Coleman's supposed to be his other line mate. For Buffalo Sabres, Casey Middlestat, he's somebody that came up last year and showed some promise. 25 points in 13 assists with 12 goals. Doesn't say how many games he played last year on this list, but I really think this kid's poised for a big season, playing with Jimmy Vesey and Marcus Johansson. I think Johansson's, by the way, a really good sneaky pickup by Buffalo. Calgary Flames breakout player, I'm going to go with David Rittich, the goalie. He showed some promise last year, and I think that he's going to take that next step and be a candidate for the Vezina, as I have him being this year. Carolina Hurricanes, I'm going to go with Andrei Svechnikov, number 2 pick in the draft a few years ago, playing with Sebastian Aho. I think that he'll benefit. Chicago Blackhawks, Drake Cagula. He's somebody that is supposed to be on their 4th line, but really showed some promise last year at 12 goals. So I could see an uptick in his point production. Next up, the Colorado Avalanche. I'm going to say that's Tyson Yost. He was a 1st-round pick in 2016. Going to be a bottom 6 for them. Wouldn't be surprised if he's a top 6 guy. He had 26 points a year ago. Columbus Blue Jackets. I had them in order on ABC order. Columbus, for them, I'm going to go with their new goalie, Joonas Korpiasso, who showed some promise last year in the backup role for Sergei Bobrovsky. Had a 2.95 goals against, and also had a sub-9 save percentage, but I just think that the Jackets are high on this kid, and the save percentage will improve. The Dallas Stars, Roope Hintz, this guy was a playoff breakout star. Now his full breakout's going to come into fruition this season. The Red Wings of Detroit, Tyler Bertuzzi, he's supposed to be their starting left wing, and I think he makes a new jump playing with Dylan Larkin. Edmonton Oilers, I'm going to go with Oscar Klefbom, their top pairing D-man, to go with Darnell Nurse. The Florida Panthers, I'm going to take Henrik Brogstrom, former 1st-round pick, 18 points a year ago, so I think he'll be fine. And he's somebody that I think could see an uptick. The LA Kings, I'm going to go with Alex Iafallo, top 6 guy on their team, 33 points a season ago. The Minnesota Wild, this was very easy. Ryan Donato. They got him in that trade that sent Charlie Coyle to Boston. This could be one the Bruins might regret if Donato breaks out into the guy that we saw in the Olympics a few years ago. The Montreal Canadiens, I'm going to go with Jesperi Kotkaniemi. I think he could be an all-star player this year for the Habs. The Nashville Predators, I'm going to go with Calle Jankork. He's supposed to be in their top 6 this year. He's going to benefit from seeing passes from veterans Ryan Johansson and Mikael Granlund. The New Jersey Devils, I'm going to go with John Hayden. He is a fourth-line player. 5 points a year ago, but I could just see a world where he jumps up a level. Islanders, Devin Taves, the defenseman. The Isles are really high on this kid. Scored a playoff goal last year. Rangers, Tony DeAngelo. He's somebody that came over in that Derek Stepan trade in 2017. He really showed some improvement a year ago. And I think that he makes a jump into, I don't know if it's going to be a top 2 guy, but at least solidify himself as a top 4 guy for the Rangers going forward on defense. The Ottawa Senators, Colin White. I think this kid could potentially have 70 points this year for the Sens being their top offensive weapon. The Philadelphia Flyers, I'm going to go with Travis Sanheim. Sanheim, obviously, on their second D-man pairing. I think playing with veteran Matt Niskanen will help. Pittsburgh, I'm going to say Dominic Kahn. Supposed to be on their second line this year with Alex Galchenyuk, and Evgeny Malkin being with Malkin will help his point production. And I could see him emerging as the next Jake Gensel for them, potentially. Sharks, Barclay Goodrow. He's somebody that didn't see much playing time a year ago, but now he's in their top 6. The St. Louis Blues, I'm going to go with Zach Sanford. He's someone that had moments in the playoffs, now in their top 6, playing with Braden Shen and David Perron. The Tampa Bay Lightning, I'm going to go with Eric Cernak, who's going to be on the pairing with Mikhail Sergachev on defense. The Toronto Maple Leafs, I'm going to go with former Ottawa Senator Cody Ceci. I just think that it didn't work out for him in Ottawa, and that could be a change of scenery guy. We see them every year. We just saw it with Eric Gustafson with Chicago. Like, Cody Ceci is somebody I'm high on, and the fact that he's not asked to be a number 1, I think certainly helps him. The Canucks, I'm going to go with Jacob Markstrom, their goalie. He's somebody that really showed me promise a year ago. 2.77 goals against average, 28, 23, and 9. Save percentage of .912. So I think this is a kid that, although he's 29, he's somebody that I can see lowering his GAA like 15, 20 points. Like, I'm high on this kid. The Vegas Golden Knights, I'm going to go with John Merrill. He's somebody that is going to be playing with Brayden McNabb on their second D-man pairing. He was a second-round pick in 2010, although he's 27 years old. 15 points a year ago with the plus 16 rating. So signs point to a tick up and a breakout for me. Washington Capitals, Christian Juice. He is somebody that is going to be on their second pairing with Michael Kempney on defense. A plus 9 in terms of a rating. 7th-round pick, by the way. And the Winnipeg Jets, I'm going to go with Nikolaj Ehlers. He's somebody that was very promising a year ago. Going to be playing on their second line with Patrick Laine and Brian Little. 37 points a year ago. First-round pick in 2014. This guy's going to break out this year. Next up, make or break players. Anaheim Ducks, I'm going to go with Sam Steele. He's somebody that really just hasn't panned out for them yet. 2016 first-round pick. Coyotes, Lawson Krause, fourth liner, 2011 first-round pick from the Panthers. Bruins, this is a hard one because this guy has obviously been the 2 Stanley Cup Finals, and like I said, this is somebody in decline. That's Tuukka Rask. I've seen people predict that the backup goalie Yaroslav Halak will have more wins than Tuukka Rask. So that's not ideal, and I just think that Tuukka's a guy in decline. And I think people are going to start to realize that this year. Buffalo, their make or break guy, in my opinion, is Jimmy Vesey. They acquired him in that trade from the Rangers when the Rangers dumped him to clear cap space to sign Artemi Panarin. And in this situation in Buffalo, he's a top 6 guy. He was not that with the Rangers. He was on their third line. So we'll see how, or if he takes advantage of this opportunity. Calgary Flames, Sam Bennett. Bennett, obviously, somebody who has not panned out. Now in their bottom 6. First round pick in 2014. The Hurricanes, Jake Bean, the defenseman, first round pick in 2016, has not done a thing yet in the league. The Chicago Blackhawks, Brendan Perlini, yet another former first round pick. He's currently on their 4th line. First round pick from the Coyotes in 2014. The Avalanche, Nikita Zadorov. Zadorov is somebody that is on their second D-man pairing. First round pick in 2013 from the Sabres. Just hasn't worked out yet. The Blue Jackets, Alexander Wenberg, yet again, another former 2013 first round pick. This is obviously the Columbus's pick. Dallas, I'm going to go with Jason Dickinson. Dickinson, obviously, playing on the 3rd line for Dallas. First round pick in 2013. Yet again. Red Wings, Jimmy Howard. This is solely because I just don't think he's good anymore, and I think that a bad defense in front of him will finally see a decline in his numbers. Edmonton, I'm going to say Zach Kazin. He's somebody who's just never panned out in the league. This might be his last chance to become a impactful player in the league, because he really hasn't been an impact guy. Not necessarily a franchise guy, but maybe like a middle tier forward that could put up like 50 points or something. Panthers, I'm going to go with Owen Tippett, former first round pick, who has not seen NHL time really yet in his life. -6 on his career in terms of plus minus. The Kings, I'm going to go with Adrian Kempe. Kempe is somebody that is on their 3rd line. He's a center, 2014 first round pick. Wild, Joel Eriksson Ek. He's someone I thought would have a good year last year, but he's somebody that really has been buried on their depth chart now. He is currently their 3rd string center. First round pick in 2015. Canadians, Jonathan Drouin. Who else? This guy I think has been one of the bigger busts over the last decade in the NHL. This guy, everybody was high on with the Lightning, and the Lightning pretty much robbed the Canadians in that Sergachev trade. The Nashville Predators, I'm going to go Kyle Turris. He just hasn't been the same player as he's been with the Ottawa Senators, and he's been healthy scratched a few times. Devils, Pavel Zacha. He's somebody that was a lottery pick and hasn't panned out yet. Islanders, Anthony Beauvillier, another first-round pick who hasn't worked out. Rangers, Elias Anderson, another first-round pick that hasn't worked out yet. Top 10 pick, by the way, the pick that they got in that Stepan Ranta trade. The Ottawa Senators, Anthony Duclair. This kid's bounced around the league over the last few years. Is this his final opportunity? Flyers, I'm going to go with Nolan Patrick, number 2 overall pick a few years ago. This kid obviously has not lived up to expectations in the league. He's somebody that people thought was going to be the number 1 overall pick in 2017, but ended up being his year over him, and that looks like a good move. And Patrick really just hasn't been what we thought he'd be. It's just that simple. Penguins, Alex Galchenyuk on a new team for the 3rd year in a row, or a different team, I should say. So maybe teams are starting to realize that this kid really isn't as talented as we all thought. So this is why, to me, it's a make-or-break situation for him. Next up, the San Jose Sharks, Martin Jones. Bad year last year, trying to improve on that sub 900 save percentage. Blues, Robbie Fabry, former first-round pick who hasn't panned out. The Tampa Bay Lightning, I'm going to say it's a tough call here with the Bolts, because they have a lot of solid players. I'm going to go with somebody who really hasn't been that good for a few years now, and that's Tyler Johnson. Remember him? 70 points a few years back. He really hasn't been that good in a couple of years. The Maple Leafs, I'm going to go with Jason Spezza, the veteran. Is this his last opportunity? Canucks, Brandon Sutter, yet again a veteran. Is this his last opportunity? Vegas Golden Knights, Malcolm Subban, the backup goalie. Why him? Because he was a highly touted prospect who hasn't panned out yet. Capitals, Jacob Vrana, former first-rounder who really hasn't hit his potential yet. And then Winnipeg Jets, this was easy. Jack Razlovic, a first-round pick who hasn't hit potential yet. Flop players. Players that I think will disappoint this season. Ducks, Ryan Getzlaf. I just think he's aging. 2, Coyotes, Darcy Kemper. I think last year was a fluke. 3, Boston Bruins, Dano Chara. I just don't think he's their best defenseman anymore, and he's somebody that's best days are behind him. Buffalo Sabres, Carter Hutton. I mentioned that earlier. I still think that there's a big hole there in terms of a starting goaltender. The Flames, Cam Talbot, I just don't think he's going to be good at all. I just think that he's judged in a good way based on that good Oilers season and that run he had with the Rangers in 2015. That's why people think he's elite. Hurricanes, Peter Mrazek. I just think that this guy's just erratic. And I think there's a chance that there's a new goalie on that team come trade deadline. The Blackhawks, Brent Seabrook. This guy just isn't good anymore. Avs, Philip Gaubauer. I'm not sold on him being a starting goalie. Maybe that's a team that trades for a goaltender and then Gaubauer returns to being a backup. Blue Jackets, Brandon Dubinsky. I don't know why the Blue Jackets are relying on this guy. He's just bad. Stars, Corey Perry. I'm not sold that he's the same guy anymore. Red Wings, Jimmy Howard. I had him on my make or break list, so I'm going to change that one. And instead, for a flop, I'm going to say the flop player on Detroit will be Danny DeKeyser. I just think that DeKeyser is somebody that just isn't as great as people think. And he's just somebody that shouldn't be a top pairing defenseman. Oilers, Mike Smith. That's obvious. I just think he sucks. Panthers, Sergei Bobrovsky. I just think that guys in the big contract in their first years don't always work out. And I don't have the Panthers in the playoffs. So that certainly helps that case for Bobrovsky being a dud in year one. The Kings, Dustin Brown. I just don't think he's going to be as good as he was last year. The Wild, Zach Parise. That guy really just hasn't been a good player for a few years now. Canadians, Carey Price. I just think that his health's going to catch up to him. Predators, Pekka Rinne. Age is going to catch up with him, I think. Devils, Corey Schneider. I just don't think he's good anymore. Islanders, Semyon Varlamov. I just think they downgraded in goal, and I've been saying that all summer. Rangers, although Henrik Lundqvist would be the obvious pick here because I've chosen a lot of goalies here, but I want to go in a different direction. Instead, I'm going to go with Pavel Buchnevich, who I just think that this guy is a little overrated. He's a solid player, but he's not a great player, and I don't think he's going to reach his potential. And this is a guy that's been healthy scratches a bunch of times as well. Senators, Ron Hainsey, I just think that he's old and washed up. Flyers, Kevin Hayes, he's not worth the contract. Penguins, Chris Letang, somebody whose game's in decline and the Pens defense as a whole isn't good. Sharks, Joe Thornton, I just think that he's old and the Sharks are looking to go younger. Blues, Alexander Steen isn't even in their top 6 anymore. The Lightning, Kevin Shattenkirk, I just think that guy is not as good as he used to be, and there's a reason why the Rangers bought him out. Canucks, JT Miller, I just think that Miller's an overrated player. Knights, Cody Eakin, he's somebody that's dealing with an injury right now. Capitals, Carl Hagelin, he's just not the same guy as he was in his prime. He's going to be still good at penalty killing and whatnot, but he's just not a good goal scorer anymore. And the Winnipeg Jets, Dustin Byfuglien, that's because he's away from the team right now, and he's somebody that has been around for a long time too. Power rankings before the season. I'm going to go from 31 to 1. 31, the Ottawa Senators. 30, the Los Angeles Kings. 29, the Detroit Red Wings. 28, the Anaheim Ducks. 27, Minnesota Wild. 26, Columbus Blue Jackets. 25, Montreal Canadiens. 24, Arizona Coyotes. 23, Edmonton Oilers. 22, Chicago Blackhawks. 21, Vancouver Canucks. 20, Buffalo Sabres. 19, New York Islanders. 18, New Jersey Devils. 17, the Florida Panthers. 16, the New York Rangers. 15, the Winnipeg Jets. 14, the Carolina Hurricanes. 13, the Pittsburgh Penguins. 12, the Calgary Flames. 11, the Dallas Stars. 10, the Philadelphia Flyers. 9, the San Jose Sharks. 8, the Boston Bruins. 7, the Nashville Predators. 6, the Washington Capitals. 5, the Toronto Maple Leafs. 4, the St. Louis Blues. 3, the Colorado Avalanche. 2, the Tampa Bay Lightning. And number 1, the Vegas Golden Knights. Next, I'm going to do best rookies for every team. So I'm going to go in order of ABC order. The Anaheim Ducks. This is an interesting one to me. There's going to be a lot of guys that I think are going to potentially see some playing time with the Ducks that are not even currently on the roster as we speak. So, for me, my choice for them for best rookie will be Trevor Zergas, who I think will eventually see some time. Currently, right now, with Boston University. Maybe when their season's over, Zegras will see time with the Ducks, potentially. So don't rule that out. The Arizona Coyotes, I am going to say for them, their best rookie will be Barrett Hayton, who I think will finally see some playing time. And an honorable mention for the Ducks, Isaac Lundstrom. I think he will see some playing time as well for Anaheim. Boston, tough one for me here, because obviously the Bruins are a team that has traded away a ton of draft capital throughout the years, especially these past few when they have put themselves back in contention. I'm going to go with John Beecher, their first-round pick from this past year. I could see a world where he does really well at Michigan, and then the Bruins are in the playoffs, and he helps them out in the playoffs if there's some injuries and stuff. So I'm going to go with him for their best rookie. Buffalo Sabres. They have some candidates, obviously, because they've been in the lottery a lot over the past few seasons. I'm going to go with somebody that has not played a game for them yet, and that is Matthias Samuelsson, the defenseman. I think that he could see some playing time from Buffalo as well. The Calgary Flames best rookie. That's a tough one because they traded a lot of draft capital over the past few seasons. So they're a team that doesn't have much talent in their system per se. So for them, let's take a chance here. It's a long shot, but their first-round pick from this past year, Jacob Patellier, who is starting the year in the QMJHL, and maybe if he still does a good job, maybe they bring him up for the playoffs or something. The Carolina Hurricanes. This is an interesting one here because they're a team that I think is going to be a playoff team. I'm going to go with Ryan Suzuki, their first-round pick from this year. I think that he could see playing time for them. Chicago, Kirby Dach, we talked about him already. I think he'll be a candidate to win the Calder. The Avs, it's going to be Cale Makar, no doubt about it. Columbus is interesting because they're obviously a team that is about to enter in a bit of a transition phase of their franchise with them moving on from Bravovsky and Panarin. So I'm going to say it's Liam Foudy, their first-round pick from last year. He's starting the year with the Cleveland Monsters in the AHL. I think he'll be in the NHL by the All-Star break. The Dallas Stars, that's another interesting one. They've had a couple lottery picks over the last few years. And one from 2018, Ty Dellandrea. I think he'll be on the Dallas Stars come playoff time, currently with the Texas Stars in the AHL. The Detroit Red Wings is tough. I'm going to say it's Philip Zadina, who's currently not on the roster. First-round pick from last year. The Edmonton Oilers, I'm going to go with Evan Bouchard, the defenseman, their first-round pick from a year ago. All these 2018 first-rounders, I think, will be really impactful for some of these teams. Next up, the Florida Panthers. This was another hard one. I'm going to go with Georgi Diantsenko, their first-round pick from 2018. Kings, obviously in a rebuilding situation. For me, like I said, tough call. But I'm going to go with their first-round pick from this past year, Alex Turcotte. This is a guy that I'm surprised didn't go to Chicago. And now he's playing for the University of Wisconsin. So it would not surprise me maybe at the end of the year if he's with the Kings and really have an impact. The Minnesota Wild, rebuilding team now, obviously. Matthew Boldy, I'm going to go with the first-round pick from this year. He's, I think, going to be good. Canadians' best rookie, I'm going to say Cole Caulfield will be up at some point. Why not? But he's not my pick. I am going to go, obviously, with Nick Suzuki. The Nashville Predators' best rookie, Dante Fabro. New Jersey Devils' best rookie, Jack Hughes, no doubt about it. New York Islanders' best rookie. I think eventually this kid is going to see some playing time. And that is former first-round pick Noah Dobson. New York Rangers, Kaapo Kakko. We all know about Kaapo Kakko. Senators, best rookie. This one's tough, but I'm going to say former Vegas Knights first-round pick Eric Brandstrom. Philadelphia Flyers, they're a team that's been nailing picks lately. I'm going to say Joel Farabee from 2018. Penguins, tough call. They have some kids there. And also they're a team that's traded away a lot of draft capital as well. And the thing with Pittsburgh is that they always find guys in the later rounds that really end up helping their team. I'm going to go with Kalen Addison, the Canadian defenseman. The San Jose Sharks, another hard one here. Another team that's traded away some draft capital over the past few seasons. But I'm going to go with Ryan Merkley, the Canadian defenseman, 2018 first rounder. The St. Louis Blues, another interesting one. They're a team that's drafted well. They traded their first round pick to Philly for Braden Shen. That trade obviously worked out in their favor. I'm going to go with Dominic Bach, their German forward. So I think that's a good call there. First round pick in 18. The Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm going to say Callan Foote finally sees some action. Toronto Maple Leafs. This is a good one. Team that's traded away a ton of draft capital. I'm going to say Rasmus Sundin finally sees some playing time with the Leafs this year. The Vancouver Canucks, Quinn Hughes, that's easy. Vegas Golden Knights, Cody Glass, that's easy. Washington Capitals, we're going to go with Alexander Alexiev, first-round pick, the Russian defenseman from 2018. And the Winnipeg Jets, last but not least, another team that's traded away some draft capital over the past few years, whether it was going out to get some help to potentially win the cup or whatnot, and it really just hasn't worked out for the Jets. I think that's a team that could potentially blow up if things go poorly. I'm going to say David Gustafsson, their Swedish center, sees some playing time. He's actually made the Jets, so that's really interesting. Looks like he made the Jets. So I think that he has an impact for Winnipeg. Bold predictions for every team this season. This is tough, and I'm going to look back at this at the end of the season and see how I do. In ABC order, obviously, by teams. Anaheim Ducks bold prediction, I'm going to say that John Gibson is traded. I just think that Anaheim wants to start like a full-blown rebuild, and I think that John Gibson is somebody that they can get a lot back for. The team that trades for him, I'm going to say they trade him to the Eastern Conference, and the team I think that gets him, the Carolina Hurricanes, and I think that Carolina can send back a package around Jake Bean and a couple other young assets they have and kind of kickstart a rebuild for the Ducks. The Arizona Coyotes, I'm going to say that Antti Ranta starts more games than Darcy Kemper. I just think that Kemper was an aberration last year. I could be completely wrong. The Boston Bruins, this is another tough one. I'm going to say that Tuukka Rask has a goals against average over 3. I just think that this guy is just in decline. I just don't think he's that good anymore. But his good defense in front of them will certainly help. Buffalo Sabres. My bold prediction for them is that Jack Eichel will eclipse 100 points and not even finish in the top 10 for the Hart Trophy. That's another Hart Trophy candidate, by the way. I just didn't list them because I don't have Buffalo in the playoffs. So I'm going to say that Jack Eichel crosses the 100-point plateau but doesn't even finish in the top 10 for the Hart Trophy, which would be a shame. And that says a lot about how much talent there is in this league. The Calgary Flames. I'm going to back up one of my predictions that I said earlier, that David Rittich will be a top 10 Vezina Trophy candidate. The Carolina Hurricanes, my bold prediction for them, I did predict that they'd swing a trade for Anaheim's John Gibson. But I'm going to do something else. I'm going to say that Andrei Svechnikov will eclipse 50 points in his second season in the league. Chicago Blackhawks, tough one here. I'm going to say that they trade one of their veteran core guys that helped them win a bunch of Stanley Cups. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't think it'll be Kane. I don't think it'll be Taves. It could be Seabrook. It could be Keith. It could be Corey Crawford. But I think they trade one of those guys. I just don't know who exactly. The Colorado Avalanche will realize that Philip Gallbauer is not the answer. So they swing a trade for a goaltender. And I could see it being a goaltender of a team that is out of it in the East. And I'm going to say it's Ottawa's Craig Anderson. I just think that Anderson is not the long-term guy in Ottawa, as Ottawa is a team that likes to go younger. And I think that Colorado can package a couple things to Ottawa to swing a deal. And last year, by the way, I had Craig Anderson traded to Philly because I didn't think that Carter Hart would be in play for them last year. But he was, and he really showed that he could be a franchise goalie. So that was a whiff on that one last year. So maybe Anderson gets dealt this year. The Columbus Blue Jackets will be the last place team that finishes with the most points. I said that earlier. The Dallas Stars. I'm going to say that Joe Pavelski will prove to be a great veteran add to that team, and he will have more than 60 points. And sometimes potentially playing with Sagan and Ben and Roope Hintz. The Detroit Red Wings will finally move on from Jimmy Howard at some point. I just think that he's just not very good anymore, and I just think that, I don't know if they trade him or bench him or what, but I think they move on from him this year. The Edmonton Oilers will have 2 guys that finish with over 100 points, and obviously those 2 guys are McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. The Florida Panthers will miss the postseason for the 4th straight year. I think that this team is very overrated, and everybody's like darling sleeper playoff pick every single year. It never pans out. I just don't think Bobrovsky is going to be special in year 1 of that contract. I think their defense is very mediocre, and I like their top 6 forward sets, but I just don't love their depth, so I just think that the Panthers are overrated. The Los Angeles Kings will make a ton of trades. A ton of them. Jonathan Quick, Anze Kopitar, Drew Doughty, Alec Martinez, maybe Captain Dustin Brown too, will all be on different teams come February, March. And it will signal a rebuild for the Kings, and it would mean that Jack Campbell would take over as their starting goaltender by March. The Minnesota Wild, that's a good one for me. I predicted that Anaheim would trade John Gibson. I don't think that Minnesota would trade Dubnyk, and I think that Dubnyk will finish in the top 5 for the Vezina Award, and he'll keep the Wild in a lot of games. He might pile up some losses, but losses in which his offense doesn't do the job. So I'm going to say that despite having a losing record, that Devin Dubnyk would be in the top 5 for the Vezina Trophy. I just think he's a very good goaltender. The Montreal Canadiens. For them, I'm going to say that Claude Julien will be fired at the end of the season. I just think that time it's run its course with Julien and the Canadiens. He's had 2 tenures there. And if they miss the playoffs again, I think he's gone. And I think the only reason why he kept his job last year is because they overachieved. And they still missed the playoffs. The Nashville Predators will part ways with Peter Laviolette after the season. I just think after a disappointing first-round exit to the hands of the Blues, I think that Laviolette will either coach somewhere else, whether that's Montreal or somewhere else that becomes open, or takes a break from coaching and goes into broadcasting with NBC. But I just think that Nashville will make a change. The New Jersey Devils will fire John Hines at the end of the season. This was a tough one. I like Hines. I think he's a good coach. But I just don't think that this is a playoff team this year, although many people in the media and my podcast guest that I had on yesterday, Doug Saravo, think that they are. But I think they finished just shy, and they'll make the coach the scapegoat, which would be the wrong move in my opinion. The New York Islanders will regret not bringing back Robin Lehner. And this was a no-brainer for me. No-brainer. The New York Rangers, Capo Caco, will lead the team in goals, and he will eclipse 70 points as a rookie and win the Calder Trophy, although Jack Hughes will give him some serious competition. The Ottawa Senators. I'm going to say that not only do they trade Craig Anderson, I think that they trade a few other guys as well. They won't trade any of their young guys, but I can see them moving off of Mikhail Boddicker and some other older veterans that they have on their team. I don't know if Ron Hainsey is going to be one of them. Maybe somebody can give up like a 6th for him or whatever, or a 7th. Artem Anisimov, I think, will be traded. Tyler Ennis, I think, will be traded. Chris Tierney, maybe. Bobby Ryan, maybe they'll finally get off of his terrible contract. Maybe they'll dump Marian Gaborik or Ryan Callahan, 2 guys that are not good players anymore. But I think they ship off some veterans yet again. The Philadelphia Flyers will come darn close to making the Eastern Conference Final. I just think that this team is heading in the right direction. A lot of good mix of players of veterans and youngsters. And I think Alain Vigneault will do a good job there. And this was a team that I predicted to make the conference finals a year ago, too. The Pittsburgh Penguins, this will be the last year of their window. I think after their first round exit this year to the hands of Philadelphia, I think that they can make some changes. Maybe trade Evgeny Malkin. Maybe they shop around like Crystal Tang and Jake Gensel. Maybe Mike Sullivan gets fired. But I just think that Pittsburgh is going to be entering a transition phase once their season comes to a close. The San Jose Sharks. I'm going to say that Martin Jones has a better season than last year, but still doesn't finish in the top 10 for the Vezina. The St. Louis Blues. Jordan Binghamton regresses after a fantastic rookie season. I don't think he'll be benched for Jake Allen, per se, but I just don't think he'll have that sparkling goals against average like he had a year ago. I could see his GAA being like 2.65, which is still okay for an NHL that really has been focused on goal scoring a lot, and the goals are up. So I'm just going to say it regresses up to like 2.65. The Tampa Bay Lightning will stand pat at the deadline after making some moves at the deadline over the last couple of seasons. So I don't see them adding any big names. The Toronto Maple Leafs will add one more piece to their defense to make themselves the team to beat in the Eastern Conference. And who's the guy that I can see them targeting in a trade? Let's say maybe it's Minnesota's Jared Spurgeon, Anaheim's Hampus Lindholm, or Cam Fowler. I think Fowler's really realistic for Toronto, and they would all of a sudden have a fantastic defense. And the Winnipeg Jets, I'm going to say that Paul Maurice is the first coach fired. I feel like this is this year's St. Louis Blues, except they don't win the cup. They get off to that slow start, they fire their coach, and then they go on a run and steal the last playoff spot in the West, but ultimately losing the first round to the hands of the Vegas Golden Knights. So my bold prediction for the Jets is that Paul Maurice will be the first coach fired. Other players that could be traded before we go, I'm going to say that anybody on Anaheim I think could be had, except for maybe like Rickard Rakell or somebody like that. I think some guys on Arizona would be available. I think Buffalo wants to like hang in the race, so I don't think they'll be a seller. I think that Chicago's a dark horse seller because I think they'll finally realize that their championship window closed a while ago. I think Columbus might trade some pieces because I think they realize that they're heading into a rebuild. I still think that's a good roster, but I think that maybe they'll trade some veterans, but they'll keep guys like Seth Jones and Pierre-Luc Dubois. The Red Wings, I think, have veterans that could be had. The Kings, I think they'll have a major sell-off. I think the Wild, I think a lot of guys on that team's available. I think Jason Zucker's available. Bonus trade prediction, I think Jason Zucker gets dealt to the New York Rangers. I think that the Rangers' one weakness is like that number 2 center. I think Jason Zucker would fill that role very well. And him behind Mika Zibanejad, and then you have Lias Andersson and Ryan Strome as your 3-4. I really like that potential fit for New York. And maybe Minnesota can get back like a Filipino and maybe a couple other pieces, maybe a future first-round pick. Although the Rangers haven't traded a first-round pick in a while since they've had that veteran core, and that veteran core is mostly gone. So maybe that's the guy that New York would target in the deal. And if things go bad with the Rangers, maybe Chris Kreider's on the block. He's on the contract year. If the Devils are underachieving, maybe Taylor Hall's on the block in the contract year. Montreal, I think, could have a sell-off if things go poorly there. I think Ottawa has a sell-off and trade some veterans. I think that the Canucks could potentially move some pieces if they're out of it. And that's really it in terms of guys that or teams I think could be sellers. And that's it for part 1 of my NHL season predictions preview. Part 2 is coming up with John Butchercross in about, it'll be posted probably 2 hours from now. We're going to start recording in like 15 minutes or so. And then Derek will be on after him, and he'll give us his predictions as well. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.